welcome, Brooke. I'm going to just introduce you briefly here, and you can, if you're able to unmute yourself, but let me just pull up something that I can read a little bit about you here to let everybody know who's in the house. Brooke Grove is a near-death experiencer, an integrative healer, shamanic energy medicine practitioner, and writer in co-creation with spirit. Brooke has advanced degrees in clinical psychology, marital and family therapy, and clinical art therapy. Additionally, Brooke has postgraduate certifications in transpersonal psychology, eco-psychology, meditation, and trauma. She knows how to read our energetic signatures to intuit what's going to help each of us thrive and do our part here on the planet, and has a goal to explore, transmute, and empower the evolution in human consciousness through gratitude, service, and light. And just like Philip was saying, gratitude is seriously like the highest, one of the highest available vibrations for us to do this healing with. So anyway, thank you so much, Brooke. Welcome. And let's see, I'm not sure what's happening with the view. It's on New Realities, the word right now, Neil, if you can fix that. There we go. There you are, Brooke. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, thank you for having me. On the vibrational note, I just came from an NDE talk and I crashed the system over and over, so I'm going to try to keep my vibe as grounded as possible.
This will help. I'll hold my shungite crystals from crystal.
I've got all sorts of goodies over here too, but that said, so you want to ask some questions or?
Sure. Well, I think there's a lot of momentum that's probably related. I think you were listening to Philip. So let's weave these two things together. What was your take on what he was saying related to the work that you do as an energy healer? Because there are a few other energy healers in there kind of trying to put together how our work as healers actually impacts and affects the karma and the DNA.
Mm-hmm. I definitely concur. I mean, he was speaking my language when he was talking about everything being a form of light. And definitely for me as a near-death experiencer, much of what led me away from my clinical background and to here now was the fact that I saw the light body of everything, you know? And then I later had 2 intuitive children that were born to me. And it's very fascinating because my 7-year-old son, the other day I misspoke and I called him an indigo. And he goes, "Oh no, mama, I'm a diamond. I'm under 10. And I'm like, I swear I've never told him that vernacular. And he goes, "You didn't have to tell me." You know, so they're just coming in intact and like activated some of them in ways that many of us had to work through and are still working through on deep and profound levels. But yes, the more light we embody, the more light consciousness that we actually put out there, the more it shifts everything for Gaia and every inhabitant.
Yeah, and Phil was talking about the hydrogen bond being like the bonds of enslavement being stuck together. And then, you know, when we do that light work and that energy work and that healing, do you feel that we fix the DNA? Would that be your intuition or your knowing?
Oh yeah, when I'm doing shamanic energy medicine on a lot of my clients, I do it all remotely now. It's fascinating because I'll literally like be seeing light code activations in the DNA. And, you know, I didn't get to hear his whole talk. I wish I did because it was so fascinating and so spot on. But when I'm seeing the person in the quantum field, you'll literally see the light lighting up as karma lifts. So it's super profound. It's super beautiful too when you're seeing the light. Because for me, it's mostly visual as well as
beautiful. And so when we talk about ascension, we're shifting, you know, from this sort of fall that we had back up into our innate, natural, higher dimensional reality. And I understand from that there's anything from 6 and beyond is where a lot of people came from to even get here in the first place. And so what do you feel is happening with the ascension, and how does this all relate to people? Like, what is the ascension in your mind, and how does this relate to the energy healing work?
Well, for me, I follow like it pertained to me that in 2012 things did begin to shift, okay? But humanity just wasn't ready to catapult to 5D. It would have caused like catastrophic, you know, devastation and loss because we just weren't there. But the 3D model fell apart, and since then, most people have been kind of tippy-toeing from like a low 4D, some to a high 4D. There are some who just catapult to 5D, but I know for myself, even with all my gifts, I still have a shadow. So I still usually am in the higher 4D realm. But I see a lot of people who are in the lower 4, yet they're married by consciousness to the 3D. They're still holding on to the old. So what is ascension? I mean, to me, it's returning to our core source. We're all fractals of the one. And so this is just the process about, recalibrating our light body to its full expansion, its full gift, where literally anything is possible then. We become magic.
We become, yes. And how important do you feel that supporting things like nutrition and downtime in nature and those kinds of things are to support the healing process?
It's huge. It's huge. I mean, most Ascension, guides recommend detoxification and recalibrating the human system so that you can, take in all this photons and all this light. I know as a near-death experiencer, when I woke up and all these gifts were just activated, it was very hard on my human. Very, very hard. My body went through a lot, and I had to make drastic altercations in lifestyle so that I could sustain this light, so that I could work with it, and so it didn't terrify me.
And Brooke, a lot of us are very fascinated about what happens in the near-death experience. Would you be willing to share a little bit more deeply the details of that experience, of how it transpired, and then what was the ensuing knowledge that you gained and how that integrated in your life?
For sure.
Who's this friend here?
This is Apollo.
Apollo.
He's come to shed some light.
Yeah.
So my NDE, I was diagnosed with autoimmune disease. I am a polytrauma survivor, and I didn't get to express it safely in my home, unfortunately, and I didn't get the right intervention. And so I manifested physical disease as a response to the trauma. And the disease, ironically, the organs that were actually holding the emotions that I was suppressing, the liver, anger, the kidneys, fear, and the lungs, grief, they all failed. And so I went into a coma. The 2 organs were already failing, and then the liver went, and it just took them all. And so I went into a 3-day coma. And I was declared brain dead. My family read me my last rites, as they're Catholic, and no one expected me to wake up. And while that happened, I literally remember being in like ICU and just coming out of the body and looking down, and I was still my consciousness. I still had my personality. Like, I was looking down like, is this an X-Files episode? What are they wearing? Wait, that's me, And then like, I'm just going up and up and up. And then all of a sudden there was no connection to this earth or this space. I was in the cosmos. That's how it appeared to me. And so of course the ascension process makes so much sense, and us being from other places to me, because my near-death experience was going back there. I was surrounded by light beings. They were pure light. They communicated by telepathy. There were no words. And I was drawn to the source light, but I kind of like knew there was something I wanted to be back here for. And that's when the light beings let me know that I had a choice. In my case, I was given a choice. And they said I could come back here, and they say it in this beautiful light that it's really hard to articulate in words, okay? So they say I can come back, but if I come back, it will be incredibly difficult. However, it's in alignment with my purpose, because all of these people are going to be changing, and these big things will be happening, and all the horrors that I went through are going to be part of, what I teach and what I do. And at the time, none of that really made sense to me, but I knew I didn't want to come back here to fulfill any karma. Like, I was like, I'm done with this trauma crap. Like, get me back in there, And then I saw these other lights, and they were not like the angels or any of the light beings that surrounded me. And I became curious about them. And they were the way I see auras now. And they were this beautiful indigo and then this really beautiful green. And there was something about them that I knew was also resonant to the body. So I went over to kind of like peek at them. And at that point, I knew I wanted to go back. And so I said to the light beings, well, how do I get back? You know, because I'm just floating around in like the most beautiful cosmic space. And they told me to look for the one light unlike any other. And at that point, you know, you don't have a body, you're just consciousness, but you move around at like these crazy speeds of light, literally. And I saw this light, this piercing, awful light, and I followed it. I was catapulted back into my body. And that's when I saw a flashlight. And it was the flashlight they were checking my vitals with that I followed back into.
Like any other, it's like weird 3D light.
And I'm super sensitive to artificial light now, so it's just very ironic that that's how it happened. And yeah, but they didn't expect me to come back into the body, so I was in the body, conscious, intubated, strapped down, PICC line to the brain, after having this transformative transpersonal experience, and nobody communicated with me. So it was really wild to go from like, you know, just divine love and union and all of that, and then be thrusted back here. And at the same time, I open my eyes and I'm in ICU and there's glass walls and people are dying, and I'm seeing soul bodies just come out. I'm seeing auras like full on for the first time. I'm seeing the energy field of everything. And I'm trained as a clinical psychologist at this point. So
wow, that must have been
quite a trip.
intense. And then at what point did they notice, oh my God, she's alive? Did your vitals start showing up again or something?
I induced a panic attack because nobody was paying attention to me. And so I legitimately started, you know, like, I'm like, well, how can I get their attention? I'm going to have to, you know, freak out a little bit. And that worked. They came over right away and they realized I was trying to communicate with my eyes because they were the only thing I could really move. And that's when a nurse realized she's awake, you know? So yeah.
That's amazing. And then, so when you were in the spirit world, they were sharing with you that this was going to be difficult. And I think, like a lot of us, we know it's going to be difficult, but we don't really know what that means until we get in it. And then we're like, what did I do? Wait a second. So how did your memory of what had happened in the spirit planes help you navigate through the ensuing difficulties?
Yes and no. It changed. It just depended how much in alignment I was with the light. Like at first it was like, yeah, that was life altering. But then the after effects started to really peak. And it's very well documented in NDE literature that in the first 7 years, a lot of experiencers commit suicide. They just can't tolerate the after effects, and they can't talk about them to many people, or they can't ground them, and it makes them feel really crazy. So I went through periods where I was like at the top of my world and loving my gifts, and then I went through periods where I suppressed them, where I was suicidal. I didn't want to be here. I started to realize how coming back to medical trauma as an experiencer and a polytrauma survivor was very important to my story. And I believe my purpose being here, because trauma is very glossed over in the NDE literature. It's almost like it's a bad word. It's all love and light. But we have to honor the shadow when we're in this incarnation. And a lot of us, that's where all this karmic clearing, you know, can occur, and the DNA up leveling. But if we don't do that work, you know, we go through many dark nights of the soul. And so those first 7 years, that's how it was for me. Then I finally realized that if I continued to suppress my gifts, I would go right back there. I was going to die. And that I only come alive in my vibration and my heart when I'm doing the work. And it's so much more enriching than clinical psychology ever was. You can make a shift in one session, like profound shifts in one session versus years of talk therapy.
I've had people say the same thing when I do the particular brand of energy clearing. They're like, wait a second, 2 years of EMDR didn't do this for me. What's going on here?
Yep.
And I think that's also part of why there are so many people whose healing gifts and insights are opening up right now, because there's millions of people getting ready to need a catcher's mitt here to comprehend what's actually going on and to begin to do the work, the process. So it's really awesome to know that you are out there doing that mighty, mighty work.
Thank you. Thank
Let me just
you.
check real quick and see if there's any questions for you here. What is your website? They may have posted it in the chat already, but go ahead and let us know what that is here.
It's www.brookgrovehealing.com.
And okay, so yeah, there's a person named who I guess it's Ayanand, who's a medium and is experiencing a lot of physical pain. Do you work with people to heal pain so she can activate her light to work and help others? Is that something that you personally are able to do with people?
Yes, that's something I work with. It all depends on your higher self as well and what you're ready to release. You know, I always tell my clients I can clear blocks, I can help you with the karma, I can renegotiate soul contracts, all that kind of fun stuff in the shamanic realm, and then heal with light. But it's what you do as the light is calibrated. It's the homework. I send like a lot of homework. I'm well known for this. But all these practices, all these rituals, all these ways of keeping yourself an open channel, that will keep it away. I actually, with my autoimmune disease, I was in chronic pain for a very long time. I had to learn to walk and talk and eat after the coma. So, and they put me on like fentanyl and, all sorts of stuff back then because it was not the same time. That said, I know what it's like to heal from severe pain. So I'm very sensitive to that. And it's definitely something I've used on myself and with plenty of other clients.
That's beautiful. Wonderful. And I can't even remember now if it was you or Philip. It's all kind of blurring together in our unity consciousness here. But we were talking about how if you don't, like, we will fall back into our I think it was you, we'll fall back into our 3D consciousness if we're not anchored all the way up. And so back in 2018, do you remember in September when they had all those eclipses and everything? So I had the direct experience. It was very strange because I was also painting a friend's cottage with like some kind of, I don't know, stain or something like that. And all of a sudden I'm kind of out in the country and I'm like, oh, we're anchoring up to 5D through the platinum ray right now. And so I had to go back and forth from total painting in the world to, doing helping with this thing that we were all doing together. And then I got on Facebook and somebody said, I think we just anchored up to 5D through the platinum ray. And I was like, it's just like, okay, we're all one here. We're doing the thing, that we're doing. And so so let's just say that was true, and we anchored up to 5D through the platinum ray back there a couple of years ago. But that doesn't mean all of the filaments of light have totally reconnected themselves up there. So would you say, what is your take on that? And how would you help people? How would you tell people what they can do to make sure that they get on the boat, if you will, more and more?
I think he was right on the money as far as talking about the karma and, the gratitude and the forgiveness. When he was saying about like, if forgiveness is forgiving, ultimately self-forgiveness is like the most healing for most people, because they think that they hold, or they feel that they hold all these resentments and anger and, whatever with different people. But most of the time it's how we treat ourselves that we are hardest on our own human. And to really embody the light consciousness, to really get to the 5D and stay there, to be anchored in through the one through there, you have to let go of these shadow elements because they're not part of that vibration. They can't exist there. And unfortunately, a lot of people that are, not conscious of the ascension process, they are still really married to these old ways of being, where pain is really the anchor point of their story, and they're attached to it. They have an emotional investment in their pain and their misery. And they don't understand that just through the gratitude and the forgiveness and the love, that's what the light is to me. That's what my experience of it was in my NDE when I work with it. It's love. It's nothing more. It's beautiful quantum physics, all this great stuff you can get into, but it's really, to me, we're all fractals of the one, and the light, it will get us there. So it's really about, purifying yourself, in my opinion, and pure intention, having intention that's flexible. You know, like if it's, you know, that you're gonna wake up every day and start saying some, you know, light codes or whatever, or light language or affirmations that are light infused, that little pivot point, those add up, you know? So for people that are like in a way lower vibrational plane right now, that stuff matters, you know? And a lot of times it's just because they haven't had anyone that knows this stuff or is open to it to speak to them, because a lot of them have had experiences. I mean, almost every person I talk to has had a mystical experience of some form, but it's been either shamed out of them or it's been silenced. But you get them talking about it and they light up. And that's just it, is you literally light up, but you have to allow yourself to.
It's almost feels like on a certain level, it's kind of like what Adam Apollo was talking about yesterday, to where there is a lot of work going on in the background. And he was talking more in the communications and the technology world that's going to be up leveling us to higher technology. But even in this work of healing and energy clearing that we're doing collectively and individually now, there's a lot of work going on in the background that isn't immediately visible. So at a certain point, it may look like, whoa, we just had a huge, massive awakening that happened like that. But it's been building all the time towards that. Would you agree?
Oh, definitely, definitely. And, you know, it's fascinating because I have a lot of family members who don't get anything that, you know, I do or I'm about, and can't believe I walked away from my old life, you know. But I'm like, you guys are about to get like a massive schooling as things continue to shift. And you're going to thank us eventually, because we were the ones doing all the work. So make it fast for you guys. So, and then the kids, like the kids that are coming in, like ready to go. I mean, they're the way showers and the gatekeepers.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, wow. That's really brilliant. And it's funny because I have a word that I use also for being attached to things that aren't good for us. You're kind of indicating that before, like the shadow stuff that we're still identified with. It's like a morbid attachment. So we're seriously attached to stuff that's really not good for us. And again, isn't love and forgiveness and gratitude still the answer, even when we realize we have a morbid attachment to something?
It is. I mean, the key with shadow work is to love the shadow. When the parts that you're resisting, they're going to persist. They're going to, you know, become monsters. But if you actually go in there and you say, why do I resist this? And you hold that thing lovingly, it becomes an ally. So you
Exactly.
transmute it in that moment. So,
It's
and we're
where
all
the contrast, right? That is the antithesis of who we are as beings of love and light. And some might say we came here to experience that contrast, to comprehend ourselves more. And then seems to me got caught in a tangled web of all kinds of things after that decision that we didn't expect necessarily to have happen. But here we are, and facing it, loving ourselves is really the key and the answer. And so we have 5 minutes left, and could somebody, I put the web link in the chat to the portal to Ascension, but could you tell me again your website so I can post it here in the chat?
Yes, www.brooke.grovehealing.com.
Okay, great. So, and somebody else put that in there too. Thanks, Tatiana. Great. And so, yeah, so people can definitely find you there. Do you have any books or anything like that?
I've been working on a book for quite some time. The great part is it's really coming into fruition now. So it's just about like editing it at this point. I'm starting a brand new YouTube channel. My clients have really asked for it. And I'm actually going to pop over there after this because I've been doing a couple events today. So if anyone wants to chat after this, you can come over to Brooke Grove Healing on YouTube and we can chat there too.
Okay, wonderful. Some people are asking, what about COVID? I mean, as an energy healer, there's someone who says she tested positive. Do you have any thoughts for her?
That's such a sensitive subject. I have an energy healer friend that had a very severe presentation of it as well. I definitely think that if the way we identify to any type of disease or any type of pathology, be it of mind, body, or spirit or emotion, definitely charges it. Okay, so treating it as something external versus that it's something that you are gives you the capacity to heal it much more. You know, and saying even I have COVID kind of puts us in a position where it's part of us more that I'm experiencing COVID now. Those kinds of shifts, that's like using the light in your language, and that's a more 5D way of acknowledging it and carrying it than the 4D and the 3D models.
That's
So
beautiful.
I will definitely hold that person in light.
Yes, and so I'm having an experience of this thing which everybody in the news media has been ramping up as something totally chaotic and unmanageable, whereas a lot of other people are finding out that it is actually quite manageable and heals relatively quickly with the right protocols. So could it be that those fears projected from the media are also part of what needs to be cleared up in someone's thinking or vibration?
Oh, for sure. Most definitely. If I were a person experiencing that, I know that I would not be allowing myself to be fed any of that energy daily. You know, I mean, I'm already don't read the news or listen to this media or any of that because I know it's all bullshit, you know. But that said, that's my bias, but I'm sure many of you feel the same. But that said, yeah, what you choose to let in when you're healing is so important. It's so, so, so important.
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
and your
And
thoughts can be
a
medicine.
lot of this, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just saying your thoughts can be medicine. You can really use them to heal yourself.
I love that. Thoughts as medicine. Yeah. And also that the statistics are showing that the recovery rate is very, very high from like something like last statistics I saw, which you'll have to do your own research, but was something from 96 to 99.9% recovery rate in different age groups. So, you know, again, if we can take the fear off of it, it's not that people have not died from it. Certainly they have. And it is a situation and it is a thing. And there are people who have recovered and the recovery rate is high. So those are also things that are good news. Beautiful. Well, we're getting ready to switch now. We have some other beautiful people coming on. Is there any last thing that you want to share, Brooke, before we shift over to our next speakers?
No, it's great talking with you guys. If anyone wants to come over to YouTube, I am not very comfortable on camera, so I'm really trying to get over that personal fear. And so much work has gone virtual now. So I'd love to just chat with you guys and hear what you're about. And thank you so much for having me.